Hey guys, Boris here, bringing you another VOD review. Today we'll be making our way over to Project PB and hopping in game with Desik. And some of you guys asked for a game which is navigated from a lot harder spot. Therefore, for this game I specifically checked quickly the results of stages 2 and 3 and the final placement, and therefore we're going to be seeing a comeback game here already, as we know. And let's see how we managed to arrive to a specific spot and see the decisions made along. For those of you who are not familiar with Desik, he's a tier 1 player in EMEA, very fundamentally good player that likes to play sometimes risk adversely and is also sometimes known for his rants in the public channels. Now, again, this is the Project PB with 16.6 patch, therefore we're also going to be observing some of the unit changes, unlocked condition changes. And unfortunately here on the stage 2 shops we did not particularly get anything we were looking for, therefore we opted to make 10 here. And also the Rexa that we dropped, we saw that we had Adrenaline module as the first void mod, which partially still the top players believe to eliminate Kais as a potential out. Now, and again, your rules in the shop do not provide you a clear direction, for those who are familiar. Coming here on the augment selection, Artillery Barrage, we have a bow, but we do not really have rods that you would want some. You would ideally want a Rage Blade Slam right away, and we do not hold on to any Yordles, therefore it's probably not going to be that. Cold Shot, obviously we have a weak board, not going to take it, so we're probably going to default tears, flowing tears right now, and that could help us make something like a Voice Staff for a potential AP line, but whenever you opt to make 10 at the start, you're probably going to be playing into some kind of loose streak, so I4 and I could be quite a bit more appealing, but a Fire Faxion would more work in a tempo spot. Now, Efficient Chopper is an interesting option as well. Now, they have adjusted it to gain 4 gold now. We have made the first 10 gold, and this was a gold start, therefore this 4 gold has a little bit less value. However, we are going to be in the prime position to be picking up the double unit copies on the, perhaps even all 3 of the next carousels, therefore we can just jam it and hope that we are going to be able to establish some kind of direction and possibility to play from there. Now, we have this Jinx here, but I doubt we're going to be committing an item to her. Also, Zone not as prominent since the bug fixed to the 5 Zone, for those who are unaware. 5 Zone, essentially, once it triggered at 60% HP, was a permanent durability and a attack speed buff to your Zone units, and ever since Warwick has fallen out of the favor. Now, this Jinx does not have sufficient frontline, therefore I would be surprised if we managed to kill more units than a few, but we fought quite a big board if we managed to kill a couple, but ideally we'll probably want to drop her as soon as she offers us the option to make an econ threshold. Could even opt to just simply make 30 here and just keep this Vi. Let's see if Desik is going to be able to play as hard as a spot. Well, that's an interesting thing to note. We have a Shadow Wilds player who has managed to pick a Yorick from their Caretaker's ally. As you can see, a proof that you can get the unlocked units if you have managed to unlock them on already 4-2-1, or perhaps they even did went for the unlock on stage 1. Now, are we have a Nashers as a slam, therefore we are still quite open to play for any comp realistically. Would ideally want to perhaps lean into a comp that can use a bow. Now we will have to make this decision on the before the first carousel, ideally on this round, as we do want to make sure we pick up the correct component. And we opted to slot in just 3 Zone here, but again, I highly doubt that we are going to be playing into this Zone line. Now, with the Nashers as a given, we could consider playing around some kind of AP comp with a JG. Going to slam a belt here in hopes that we manage to kill a unit more, but unfortunately we do not manage to kill the last 2 units. Jinx's damage gets spread out and we kill neither, the worst case scenario, but we do get offered a Loris as a double pair here. Greatly going to synergize with the Piltover. We ideally wanted to go for a high cost unit for an item here, and we do get a double bow now. Again, doubt we're going to be making this red buff here, but we could. Our first Piltover mod. Now, since we have not committed to a line yet, we just went to the Blast Shield. Otherwise, if we are sure that we're going to be playing into AP, but we're going to do that with Continuum Cogs. However, since we have no tears or rods right now, we cannot go for that. Same with Turned Oscillator. Would want to be playing some kind of shielding comp. It's fine in the List Seraphine line, but not as great. Now, going to opt, yeah, we have held on to this Caitlyn when we going to slam for that Nasher. So we're going to be committing to the AP line in some form, hoping to this Ori is going to carried us a little bit, since we also picked up the Loris pair, if in hopes if we managed to 2-star, and perhaps Desik was praying there for the summon of a Loris 2 coming stage 3 to be able to stabilize some of his board. Now, double bow obviously would enable us, but again, I am a little bit worried with the choice if we do not get a Rod or a Tier. However, we obviously have to. And we're also going to go for a full sack here. We checked our built-over mods quickly. Did not see the acceleration gate, which is another gamble you sometimes have to take when committing to this line. But we're going to discuss what the spot we are once we get there, what mod to take. Also, holding on to these outs, we can see him clearly holding on to the possible pairs. Since we are playing from a loss streak, we cannot just opt freely into 10 lossing, right? Stage 3 damage was increased this set, and playing from a single life is going to be quite hard, right? You want to find some ways to spike your board when you are playing from these loss streak lines. Therefore, generally in previous sets, you would be looking for a reroll spot in this kind of case. However, in this set, it's a lot harder. Now, coming up here on the built-over mod, Identification Ray could be a defensive option that we consider. However, we already have a defensive mod. Therefore, we want to find a way to amplify our damage, which is going to do done by Megatron Coil. Micro Rockets, if you are not just committing to the 6 built-over, not that great. Oh, but we are going to go for a... Okay, so we are going to get Identification Ray. So perhaps we value the synergy between the two mods a little bit more. Plus, we have this Loris pair, and with this mod, the Loris 2 is going to be quite tanky, and if we are going to find ourselves on a lower econ spot, then the Loris is going to be our 2-star tank, right? Coming on the early stage 4, perhaps for the whole stage 4 even. Well noted. Just do not value the 16% damage amp as high, especially since that would lock you directly into playing for a Seraphine carry, and in case you hit a 2-star Lissandra, your mod is kind of lacking in power there. Now, but the Gigantification Ray for extra frontline is always going to support your units to deal more damage. Complete a 6 loss here, and now we would ideally hope to be able to save some HP. We leveled to 6 aggressively here since the econ allowed us. Now going to obviously reroll Cursed Crown right away. We are not in the tempo spot to play for it. Invested would be make force us to sack more, but Sword Overflow is also a AD item that we are going for, so quite a dreadful options here. We'll have to go for one of these now. Maybe we are considering invested. We are 65 HP here. Would mean that we would probably have to 4-1 it unless we manage to pick up a couple of wins here. We are sacking and we have leveled already. Now, it's a tricky option. Alright, we're going to go with Soul Awakening. We do have the form of an econ in the Lost Streak and a Silver Augment. And we are quite rich, right? We are already, yeah, level 6, 50 gold, 16 XP pumped already. We are quite rich. Therefore, Soul Awakening is going to be great for us if we are able to make it. And so we are playing for the spike. Again, talking about necessity to spike. If we are able to spike with a 2-star forecast and a 2-star frontliner, coming on, say, 4-1 or 4-2, then this augment is going to gain quite a bit of value. Generally, a great combat augment all around. Now, we have not held on to this Ishtal. This is another thing that can be noted, that you can potentially play around Ishtal from these kind of loose streak spots if you're able to freely hold those units. I'm going to opt to not hold on to this Milio, as we are not, as the board is quite rigid. If we are playing most likely for this Lissandra Seraphine board, and there is not a lot of flexibility there. While you could try to carry the 2-star Milio, once you find the 1-star copies of your other units, you are most likely going to be locked in. We have the Seraphine here on the carousel. Unfortunately, it's a cloak, but you also have a Braum with the glove is going to be just greater option, right? Spotted right away. Going to give us a half of the JG and something that could also become a potential something like a Steadfast. So he's mapping out also an interesting board there with the Demacia Splash and a Volibear. Now, could this be a newer variation to the board we're already familiar with? Again, these are Project PB games. They are somewhat ranked, but players here are generally trying to also explore all the options, as the regionals competition is a lot more important for them. Specifically, since the first week is going to make your tier 1 cuts. Now, this does think like we're committing to a full 10 loss now. At this point, we're gonna make this Ori too, as we doubt that our board is going to be strong enough to win. However, snapping our streak here, I'm not sure if it's the best option. We are rich, but again, the interest compounds over to your PV round, and if we snap our streak, we're essentially losing out on at least 5 gold, which kind of makes up for us having to level early. And if we do win, well, we are still at 33 HP coming stage 4. It's 3 lives at its absolute best. So we're going to be dropping out of 2 lives. Have a Seraphine in the shop. That's quite neat for us. Going to opt to roll, so what are we trying to cook here? We made this Loris too, obviously. We slotted in a Mundo when we are holding onto the Zinzao. Now we get a bunch of swords, unfortunately for us. Probably has to be some form of GS. Or are we looking to unlock a Galio on this board as well? Again, we pushed this level early, let's roll for a roll down, but we are still quite poor and we're holding on to lots of these units. Finally, Sandra going to go for a Deadblade full reforge. Yeah, the first shop slot is buggy. The thing to note for you guys here, if whenever you're trying to go for reforge, just reforge on the second unit. For some reason, for the last couple of sets, this bench slot has been buggy. Able to pick up a win and coming up in our third augment, so it does look like we're going for some form of a Galio unlock. Now, I believe we only have a single frontline item right now, something like Belt of Overflow couldn't be too bad. Jeweled Lotus would probably lose out value since we might have made the JG, but Retribution could synergize it on the other hand. Now, again, at this spot, are we going to value combat or, I would say econ or combat or items like this? This is a hard spot. Probably going to reroll Jeweled Lotus, which Belt Overflow is agreed to be slightly undertuned as well, therefore might pass up on that, but we're going to default that and going to go for a Coronation. Again, a risky play. A risky play. We have managed to complete the Steadfast here that we noticed. We only have 2 tank items, but we're able to slot in Warn from this Coronation. It gives us a temporarily 3rd damage item. Very interesting pick, as generally Coronation is cost you econ, right? You're playing another unit, which obviously want to upgrade as well at some point, even if it is just a trade bot. And we are quite in a sticky spot where we are running around with a single Lysandra. 1-star Lysandra. So we're going to unlock a Volibear here from having picked up that Brom 2. And we are going to be greeting Ornn here on 2 lives. This Coronation opened up the possibility, but if we hadn't high rolled the Ornn, I'm not exactly sure what, like, we could have slotted in Demacia, but with a Garen, but that would give us 3 Defender. I guess we are not valuing our Piltover mod as high in the 4th option, therefore we are trying to explore an option of how to be playing around with only 2 Piltover on this board. And a Lux definitely can be a potential carry for that. But going to have to see how do we string this board together. It's an interesting option. Now we're able to pick up a Lysandra 2 from our Carousel. Again, this is a thing that obviously we have efficient shopper is going to give us Lysandra 2, but whenever you are playing from these behind positions, you have to use your Carousel priority whenever you're evaluating it, not only for your items, but also for the units, as you need to be able to spike at certain points, right? And you need to be efficient with your gold. You will need a lot of gold unless you have some kind of econ enemy. You sometimes just have to go for the unit of the Carousel. Now we managed to pick up our 2 stars, going up against a Death Cap Yona right here. Hopefully we do not lose this one. Should be quite fine. It's also an interesting board being strung together, but I believe we should be quite stable now at the time to go for a level 9. So have masterfully managed to recognize at the point we needed to spike, and still, again, at these lower, like, low roll spots in sense, you have to be taking some risks, right? If you do not take some risks, you are not going to be able to play for a winout for sure. But like, obviously at this high of elo, if you have a lower spot, you are going to have a tough time top 3ing. So you're trying to play for the best placements you can, and you simply have to go for a risk that you will high roll something eventually, right? This players say you will high roll something eventually. Now we do lose that round, which puts us to a single life. Going to get the sword artifact and tell him to get out. We have Galio with the 8-star level unlock now. I'm gonna slot that in as well. Ornn formed as a tank artifact, which is quite neat since that was the slot we were lacking in. Now we could try to look to itemize either this Volibear or this Lux. I'm gonna string a Volibear in like this. Wait, I'm confused. We unlocked the Galio, I believe, but I guess we unlocked the Volibear instead. Alright. We have the Volibear, going to go for an item on the Lux, and whatever can we make from this? We're going to go for a QSSS, could have also went for Adaptive Helm on the Lux, but double mana item. Not sure if that's what this is going to give us the potential highest cap that we can play for, as if we're able to pick up a Volibear item from the carousel. Now we pick on, okay, now we unlock the Galio. Right. So we opted which one to, whatever to unlock first, and obviously the Volibear is more of an immediate spike, able to get the... Okay, no, opt pass for the Arcanist buff from the Worm. Nico just going to play Eteric as next to frontliner. I believe now we should be definitely quite strong to be considering level 9. Up against a Tom Kench 2, hopefully 8-hour tank, but our rest of the frontline was sufficiently strong as we were able to take this player out. A very interesting game, and it's quite a lot of decisions to analyze, as there might not appear as clear from the first time looking. Now that we have aggressively used our gold again to finally 2-star our 4 costs, we obviously should be hoping that we're quite stable. Again, sacrificing this Freljord buff on the Braum here, which is something I think a lot of players also just try to avoid. Obviously you want to try to avoid as much as you can, but players just refuse to do. Like, if you have this kind of case where you know that most of the damage is going to be coming from that side, obviously toss your front tank in front of them. The extra little bit of HP does not matter as much. Able to get a spark here on the Kindred. Oh, probably going to be selling these Kindreds right away. Just use this as a 10 gold. We obviously wanted some shred on our team. Now, are we going to toss the spark on a Volibear or a Garen? Reason for Volibear is he does have some little bit of AP scaling, and he already has a single item. But okay, Garen, we believe that the Garen is going to be able to live longer to secure our spark being strong enough. With the highest amount of uptime against the last fast 9 Noxus player. Volibear managed to wrap on their Mel, and so we were able to pick up a win here and eliminate Bensack. Still quite low on goal, but we have managed to squeeze our way into top 4 again by playing into a risk. The game can reward you, and we recognize that, okay, we cannot sack on 1 life on the stage 4. We just scouted around and agreed that the lobby is being quite strong. We knew to get these 2 stars after stage 4, that is. So we decided to fully send it, which has now put us in the spot to already have topped 4. And since our Braum, again, knightly position in front of these Slayer players, we just have so much armor on him right now that we are able to fully stall and pick up another win here. We see a 2-star Thresh coming in from Dr. O. That could be quite scary for us. But this is a neat way to see how, hey, we have some more options with these unlock conditions changed. We have an option to be a lot more flexible. We can play for this kind of a Demacia Piltover board, which is very interesting to already start learning about in the next patch. Going to also sell this Garen to go for a Silas, which is going to give us an Arcanist, just increasing our cap even further. Now, we had to sacrifice some of a little bit of a front line for us, and also had to sacrifice the 2-star Taric and able to be afford all this. Now, again, another risky play. Able to pick up a death cap to get the 3rd item completed on the Lux here. Now again, nicely positioned in the last minute to get in front of the Braum, in front of the Yone, and able to get our units stacking their weak side. Going to be a very close fight, but we have this extra bit of damage. Now another thing to... This Yone almost did it for us. We're still going to be unlocking Rise here. Very, very wild board. Going to drop the Taric as he's not doing too much. Get the Rise in as well. Now, one thing I wanted to note here is that we are keeping this Lysandra in the corner instead of a Lux. Now, potential why that could be is that when Lysandra is hitting a little bit less of a unit, she's able to actually obviously fully send her damage into that unit, as otherwise her spell makes this damage is split between adjacent units. Now, when she was in the middle, she would be doing less single target damage, and the lobby seems to be quite prominent on these frontline single unit threats that we want to eliminate, so we're willing to sacrifice the Lux's AoE splash for that reason. Now, but this again is a very, very interesting board. Again, managed to position the Braum in the last second in front of the Callista. The Silas jumps in. Now, are we going to get through this Yorick 3? Should not be an issue, as we have so much damage in our team and we're able to take Dr. Oat. And this also completes as a win. There's so many things in this game that are niche and could be analyzed, and many ways, and the potential to cap this board perhaps even higher, but very well recognized by Desik again. Take risks, and sometimes they will pay off. As in these low roll spots, you sometimes just have to gamble. That's the game. I hope that you learned something new, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.